funny enough, there was a English engineer in the UK in the 20th century which came up with an idea of a train that used a similar concept. It wouldn't be in a vacuum chamber, but it would have a vacuum chamber beneath it, a pipe, and a piston in that pipe that used the propulsion for the train.
So is it Elon Musk that commercialized the idea or made the idea of the Hyperloop popular in society?
Well, as I said, in the 20th century, the technology was already there. It's just that they didn't have enough advanced technology to sustain the vacuum chamber. The leather straps on the pipe got worn out quite easily, which resulted in air going into the pipe. Elon Musk saw the idea in 2012, thought of something similar. He then scrapped that idea for the current concept that we have, where it's a vacuum chamber and it's electromagnetic propulsion and levitation. But yeah, to put it bluntly, Elon Musk was the main commercializing point for this since, I wouldn't say 2012, because that concept was fairly simple, but from 2015 and on.
Yeah, I mean that guy Elon Musk, he's been commercializing a lot of ideas lately.
Oh yeah,
like electric vehicles, reusable rockets, all those things. So I guess that brings us into CHC, which is the actual competition about Hyperloop. Was the competition originally started by SpaceX and then you took it from there? What is it exactly? Because I read something like that.
Well, I wouldn't want to put the SpaceX Hyperloop competition and what we're doing in the same category, but what happened was SpaceX was the launching point for this new idea, this new concept of Hyperloop. And what they did was they held competitions for 4 years from 2015 to 2019, where they invited teams from all around the globe to bring their pods and see which pod goes the fastest, which pod is the safest, and etc. But after 2019, they stopped it for some reason. And we as the Hyperloop community were quite surprised by this because everybody had plans for the next competition, what they wanted to show off, what they had done. And after a few years of silence, well, we as the Hyperloop community said, okay, we want to do something of our own. We want to keep this train going. We want to keep the idea alive. And that's where CHC came from, Canadian Hyperloop Competition. We wanted to be the next step for Hyperloop and the community of Hyperloop.
That's so interesting. So the competition is happening later in 2021. What is it exactly that teams are going to be competing on? Are they going to be building their Hyperloop pods, or are they going to be competing on a design basis?
We plan on having two, let's call it main events for now. The first one is supposed to be an online event where teams would apply with their designs, and since it's online, it would be more of a showcase and a few competitions perhaps on what the pod theoretically could do. But for the main competition, we plan on having a track, and we plan on having the pods, well, they would be pre-built by the teams a long time ago, and they would bring it to the track, and then we'd see what they are capable of on that track. The exact categories of the competition have not yet been decided, but the main idea is that it will be on the tracks.
That's interesting. Is it going to be open for only Canadian universities? Because it's going to be online at some point. Is it an international competition called the CHC just because it's going to be organized by a Canadian university or a Canadian team?
Well, the name is Canadian Hyperloop Conference, but the Canadian only stands there because it's being held in Canada. Both the online and the face-to-face events are planned to be international, and anybody who has a team or who has a pod, or even if you don't have a pod but just have a pod design in mind, can apply for the events, at least for the first one where it's going to be online. And with the pandemic going on, it looks like we're going to be able to invite international teams as well, but in the slim chance that we can't due to the pandemic, it would be most probably maybe America and Canada. But it looks like we're going to be able to invite everybody.
Yeah, I hope so, man. One thing I want to talk to you about, which is the actual technology of Hyperloop. That's something that it's a concept that we've been talking about a few years now in the engineering community. We've seen a lot of startups boom in that space. It was started by Elon Musk. Then we've had Virgin Hyperloop jump on, and I think as of today they have the most sophisticated Hyperloop system or technology in place yet, which is being tested, and they've actually already successfully conducted runs in the vacuum chamber. And we have a lot of if you want to call them umbrella associations like CHC, like different universities that are also working and researching and developing the Hyperloop technology. So I wanted to ask you, what is the current state of the technology today? Is it still in its research and development phase, or is it starting to be rolled out on the general scale?
I would have to say that it's right in between. We're still researching on the most efficient ways of doing stuff. That's why there really isn't a concrete formula to what Hyperloop is yet. But at the same time, the different companies and governments are eager to test out this new technology and even implement it. So you can see that there are even some governments who are building test tracks, test tubes, and test pods. And some are even planning on doing it between cities. So at one point, they might even utilize it instead of a test track to an actual track for transportation. But yeah, as I mentioned, everybody is still researching this new concept, and new ideas are coming around every day. An example of this would be right now, most of the pods are using what's called a linear induction motor. But I have heard of universities starting to use a new method of electromagnetic propulsion, although I don't really have the name in my mind.
That's interesting. And yeah, it's a technology. It's you can compare Hyperloop, if you want to compare it to something, to cars 100 years ago. Imagine how cars have gone through multiple steps of development before becoming the cars they are today, more efficient, more safer, and all those things. So I think we're going to see the same life cycle happen in Hyperloop, where it starts with a raw concept and then it evolves step by step. And it's interesting you mentioned that there's a lot of governments that are backing the project, because I was recently in the UAE, and Abu Dhabi actually is working on one of the world's first commercial Hyperloop. Like, they literally want to connect. Yes. I don't remember if it's within Abu Dhabi or they want to connect Abu Dhabi and Dubai with a Hyperloop, and that would literally cut the transportation between the cities from an hour and a half to like 15, 20 minutes, which is incredible. Imagine the time saved in doing that. So my question is, what are the main challenges when it comes to like implementing the Hyperloop? I know safety is a big one. What are some of those things and how are they being addressed?
Well, as any other technology, Hyperloop has received its fair share of criticisms along the way. And there are, of course, some concerns that everybody has on their minds. One of them being, well, being in a vacuum chamber. It doesn't really sound the safest when you first hear it. But when you think about it, it's the same thing as a plane. The only difference is, when you're in a plane, there are thousands of meters of pure nothingness below you. While you're in the Hyperloop, you're safe on the ground. Not to mention, there are currently testing new tunnels that have closable sections, where in case of any error, the sections would be closed and air could be pumped in rather, and other safety measures. Another concern that I'm now thinking of would be funny thing, when you think of something going as fast as Mach 1, you immediately think of the sonic boom and the extreme sounds that it creates. But research has been conducted, and companies say that the Hyperloop, when it's being used for transportation use, is not going to generate more sound than a normal highway. Now, the reason for that is very interesting. You see, the pod levitates on the tracks. And since there's no air in the chamber, it's physically almost touching nothing. So sound can't escape the pod and go outside of the chamber.
Right. And it's like in space where sound doesn't travel in a vacuum. So
Yeah.
most of the noise is going to come from the pod, not the pod, but the, how do you call it, this, the cylinder where the pod is traveling in. How do you call that?
Mhm. Well, till now, we just either called it a tunnel or a vacuum
Tunnel,
chamber.
there we go. Yeah, the tunnel, there we go. I guess, yeah, the only source of noise pollution is going to come from the tunnel vibrating from the Hyperloop, which is really interesting. That's really interesting. Um, what about the economic or the benefits that will come from building a Hyperloop? Of course, there's the obvious ones, which are you get you can shorten commutes, so increase productivity for society. But when you have countries like the UAE, or you have provinces like California, the state of California, that's investing in Hyperloops to reduce, like, what are some of the main benefits that come out of this technology?
Well, I think I would categorize Hyperloop's benefits into three groups, being economical, environmental, and just social life. We'll go with the environmental first. Right now, if Hyperloop were to take the place of all plane and train rides between 500 and 1,500 kilometers, we would reduce yearly emissions by 58%. Now, all of the transportation, it results in around 14% of all global emissions. And with the current state of nature, those numbers mean a fair amount.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And as for the economical gains, the economical benefits, Hyperloop Hyperloop's benefits on this side generally fall under the category of ease of transportation. This could be used for trade, where whatever it is that's being traded could be sent and received quite fast. And also possibly for, what's the word I'm looking for? Tourism. Not to mention the immense job opportunities it would open, because currently when we plan on working, we try to find a job that pays well, but at the same time is close to us so we can reach it. And that usually doesn't go any further than the city that we're living in. But with Hyperloop, you could be in the next city in just a couple of minutes. So I feel like economically speaking, it could benefit the job or the working power of a country immensely. And for the social side, well, I think it's safe to say that there are many parents out there who have to work long hours and don't exactly get to spend a lot of time with their families. And with Hyperloop, I believe that could very easily change, because when you go abroad to work or onto another city, you often find yourself trying to find a plane or train ticket, which is both cheap, but at the same time gets you home as soon as possible. And those two don't really go hand in hand that much, which results in us getting the ticket, which is cheaper but takes a long time to get back home. But with Hyperloop, you could theoretically wake up, jump on a Hyperloop, go to the next city to work, finish your working hours, and come back home in the same day. And even if you're working abroad, you could easily come home every weekend.
Man, Nusrat, those 3 points you brought up are really interesting. Like really, like this is fascinating. And I can honestly relate with all three. So you mentioned, just to recap, economical, social, and environmental.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go one by one. So the environmental one, it's more efficient because Hyperloop runs on electricity, not on prehistoric diesel.
Yes.
Okay, so it's entirely electricity powered, which makes sense because it uses magnets. It's levitated by magnets, so which is electric powered. Interesting. The second one, which is economical, when you think about it, this can literally, a Hyperloop system in a city can literally reshape the entire urban planning of a city. Because before, you had most of the high-paying jobs or the high-paying real estate, the valuable real estate in a city was always at the center in the downtown. But now, all of a sudden, with the easy access to the Hyperloop, we're going to start seeing a boom in the urban real estate around the area. So a lot of people would rather live in an urban city about, let's say, 1 hour from downtown. But now all of a sudden, if you can commute downtown in 10 minutes, all of a sudden it's not so far anymore. So it can literally reshape the cities. And that's super, like, those are really, really good points.
Yeah, I agree. The total time, currently the calculations show that a train ride that's around 100 minutes would be taken down to the simple 10 minutes on Hyperloop.
Wow. At what speed does the Hyperloop travel?
Currently, we have a record that is from the SpaceX competition, which was around 300 or 400, wait, let me check. Yeah, 463 kilometers per hour, which makes 288 miles per hour. The team that got that record was TUN Hyperloop. But when it is said that when it's on its transportation use and commercial use, it's planned to have around 1,080 kilometers per hour. That's faster than a normal airliner.
Wow. How much faster is that compared to the speed of sound?
It's 0.87, I believe. Mach 0.87. We're at the tip.
Just at the tip. Wow, this is fascinating. That's actually fascinating. So Nusrat, where can people learn more about the Canadian Hyperloop competition if they want to get involved, if they want to attend? What are some of the best places they can go to, the links they can click on to register, enroll, or just be part of it?
Well, CHC is just about to publish its internet website. And of course, we have Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And mainly, you should be able to find us if you just simply write CHC or Canadian Hyperloop Conference. And where our doors are always open to new individuals who are self-motivated and interested in the Hyperloop concept and want to contribute into what we're doing. And if by any chance you are an experienced engineer, feel free to leave us a mail if you want to get involved as well. And yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Nusrat, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Passionate about the Popeyes chicken sandwich? Get ready to fall.
Alrighty, so that was the podcast. That was really cool. Awesome. All right, so now up next we have some updates from Zach, who is part of HyperMap, and he's going to tell us what is going on there. I will stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen if you need to.
Cool.
Yes.
Hey everybody, sorry I was a little late, but yeah, wanted to, and a couple, are you guys gonna have a discussion about that too? Because there's some interesting things I wanted to comment on.
For sure, yeah, if you wanted to bring something up, yeah, go for it.
Okay, just a couple things. So I don't know, when was that originally recorded?
End of May.
End of May. So just a couple things to think about. So yeah, there's just so much more material to expand upon there. But when you think about some of the social impact, particularly travel from work, a lot of the, obviously recent 18 months or 2 years did change a lot of digital learning opportunities, but also work from home opportunities. So as that continues to expand, when you think of traditional downtown city centers, you still have, a lot of that real estate is, either tech or finance kind of office jobs. So moving as those jobs are more conducive to remote capabilities, you would see a bit of a entire landscape shift in why people would travel such long distances for daily work. So you'd see more potential manufacturing work or things that actually need you to be present. So jobs like that will never go away would be a little more conducive than your traditional kind of downtown city center jobs that really actually occupy most of that commercial real estate today. So we're seeing a lot of shifts in the commercial real estate environment as well. So but just something to think about, because that has been a new recent point of contention or argument is, oh, well, Zoom or Teams here will, remove that need for people to move long distances for work. And it won't. It's just a different dynamic of it. So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
So Zach here with the HyperMap team or group. So obviously there's a lot of content. Obviously there's a lot of different participants in the Hyperloop ecosystem in space. So what we're trying to do is bring all that information together, both from a kind of content and update perspective and awareness perspective, but also get into some data opportunities as well, to really with the goal of enabling the industry and amplifying its reach and the awareness of it. Because if you think of some of the old technologies, the car, the plane, all those things, there were learning curves, there were adoption curves. So how do we shorten those as a global community that's passionate and believes in this stuff and participates in various capacities? So that is what we're trying to do here. So is the screen sharing?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So you guys can go to this site now. It's live, hypermap.co. And so we'll put all the routes that the various teams out there, or various companies out there, have proposed. So all these are proposals. So we have all of our data assets. We're always adding new and we're always updating. But so, if all the companies here have their own websites, but we just try to bring all of that company information to one place. So we try to bring as much as we can to one place, see some of the distances and times and things. And we have more data elements beyond these basics that we'll add here in sub tabs and kind of add some more higher level tabs here. But so that's what we're trying to do, is bring a lot of this information together, and a little more digestible, a little more awareness, and a little more self-exploration to kind of empower and get whose ever wheels turning, whether it's the teams, the companies, and bring a lot of people together. So we're not only putting the routes and companies together, but then we're also trying to put and track all the teams' activity as well around the world. So, you guys here in Waterloop here, so we're trying to build you some profiles and get some basic information and link all your socials as well, to all that stuff. We're in the process of working this out. Obviously, these links aren't working yet, but stay tuned and we'll put that out in the Slack channel if you're not already in that. But so that's what we're doing here. We're just kind of gathering all that information, all the teams, and want to link your videos, want to link your documents, your presentations, and then put all of this information together in one place. So, if there's over 100 teams across the globe right now, with 100 different websites, how does someone who's not involved, navigate that? Not well. Same thing with the companies. If there's 10 or 12 companies, and each with some routes, with some offices and in different statuses and all that stuff and different levels of funding, how does one effectively navigate that and report on that? So we're interested in partnering up with media as well. Your traditional kind of scientific or tech magazines, Wired, all that, New York Times tech section, all that stuff. So that's our goal, in a long-winded nutshell, is to bring all this information together. News articles, that just daily updates on who's writing what on Hyperloop. So we're growing this site. We got a few developers bringing this stuff together. So building content and awareness together. So this is growing, this is living. So anything that you guys may find beneficial that's not on here, any ideas, we're always changing this. We're working on this weekly. So wanted to take this opportunity to share that with y'all, and thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, amazing. Does anybody have any questions for Zach? Anything they want to ask?
Just yeah, it's really cool to see how the website's grown over the last couple of years. So,
Yeah, it's taken a minute, but it's also much like yourselves. You can appreciate this is one of our side hustles, so it's if you could dedicate up, you know.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Nice.
I actually have a question. This is Trevor. I'm from Texas. I was wondering, just kind of curious, how do you guys aggregate all your information? Is that some kind of automated process, or you just have people?
I wish, my friend. No, what's nice or bad, depending on how you look at it, is the changes, the big media events that have a lot of rich data in them. So, for example, a feasibility study. When those get published, there's maybe a week's worth of attention to it, and then people don't care anymore. But those papers are 20 pages, or in some cases 150 pages, and there's just a lot of data in there. And it's the companies that have spent a lot of money in that research and are wanting to publish it and put it out there, but no one's reading 150 pages of a feasibility study, but we do, and then we try to put that out there and put it all in one place, so you don't have to, and people can come to one place. So that's why we'll keep adding a lot more content to this as we go. And then there's also opportunities to extrapolate that, because a lot of this stuff is really distance equals rate times time, right? So a lot of that stuff is pretty easy, and then you can extrapolate costs or impacts to travel, as such. One of the easy ones is like, hey, how many cars would this take off the road? How many trucks would this take off this distance of highway? Well, that translates directly to car accidents that can be avoided. So if only one study covered that, you can extrapolate that for any route proposal, which is pretty cool.
Really cool. Well, thank you so much for building this. This is something that's super helpful, and definitely love seeing all the information you guys have.
Yeah, it's not perfect yet, but any advice or any hey, you should put this on there, please let us know.
Very cool, very cool. Does anybody have any more questions? Awesome. Okay, yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Zach. That was really, really cool to see. And we are very excited to hear more updates. So before we all kind of head out, I just have a couple updates about CHC and what's kind of happening there. So first update is that we are going to start doing bi-weekly team highlights on our social medias. So we're going to send out a little Google form that is going to have you guys just list off something you'd like to highlight about your team. So it could be a specific project that your team is working on. It could be a specific subsystem you're really proud of. It could even be a specific member who's doing a really great job lately that you just want to highlight. And we will choose one team to highlight every other week, I guess depending on the amount of responses we get. So I will be sending out that form probably tomorrow on the Hyper Co-op channel. And then second update is just about events in general. So we're going to try to start having events every month. So far I've scheduled them on the 1st of every month. So the next one will be September 1st. And that'll be kind of the big kickoff one where we are going to talk about our upcoming online showcase event that's going to happen sometime in November. So we are still planning and getting together kind of an agenda for that, but come September 1st, you guys will be able to log on to the event and we will tell you everything you need to know about it, where to apply, when to apply, what the competitions are going to be like, what you're going to need to do for your pod, so on and so on. So yeah, exciting things are definitely coming. So I really hope you guys can make it to that one and spread the word too. Hoping to get the word out to a lot more people, so we can have the majority or at least one person per Hyperloop team come on the call and hear what's going on. But yeah, cool. Does anybody have any questions or comments at all? Okay, cool. I was wondering.
Yeah,
oh yes.
sorry, just one question.
Yeah.
So I saw this thing has been recorded. Are you gonna post the recording later in the Hyper Co-op channel?
Yes, I was gonna actually, that was my next question for you guys. There was a couple people who couldn't make it. Are you all personally okay with that? We're also probably gonna put it on our website too for people who weren't able to make that. Yes? Okay, perfect. Yeah, just wanted to make sure. Yeah, because I think, a lot of people have different time differences, so it's hard for them to make it. But we want to make sure everybody's hearing all the information. Yeah, awesome. So is there any more questions for anybody? No? Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining our first event. I really appreciate it. And you will definitely be hearing more from me soon. And I hope to all see you at our next event in September.
Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Krista.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Thanks, Krista.
Yeah. See you guys later.
Bye.
See you. Bye.